Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the Thursday, December 5th, 2024 Public Works Committee meeting. And with us today, I have Councilmember Angela Jefferson and myself, Councilmember Swarthout. Councilmember Althauser is excused as a previous appointment. So let's go ahead and start the show off. I see Bill's online. So we've got our first item is the service provider agreement with HDR Engineering for on-call engineering services amendment number one. Number one. And Bill, you get the lead for the longest titles.
All right, there you go. Thank you. Good morning, council members. So I'm going to share my screen here. And let's see, share. Let's see if that works.
Perfect.
Okay, can you see that? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. So this morning, I'll be talking about, we're doing the same thing we did the last time we met. We're going to be talking about a couple of contract renewals that we're doing for this year. These are in reference to on-call construction on-call civil engineering services contracts. We're going to talk about two today, one with HDR and one with SCJ. These are for general civil engineering, and predominantly we hold these on-call contracts out with other engineering firms, really for two main reasons. The first, to address workload. So sometimes we just need help getting things done on projects. So we rely on these general civil engineering firms to provide services that we can take care of. And the other one is just for expertise. Sometimes something comes up that we don't have expertise in-house. It's a special item where we rely on these firms to help us out to get projects completed. The two that we're going to talk about today, these are just either contract renewals or increases in the amount of total not to exceed for the contracts. The first one is amendment number one, service provider agreement with HDR Engineering for on-call engineering services. The original agreement was set for $70,000 not to exceed. Amendment number one, which is this one we're talking about today, increases the not to exceed to $145,000. And again, that's just any general civil engineering needs that we need through 2025. And it also extends the agreement until the 31st of December, 2025. So it basically just carries them over for another year to help us out. The second one is amendment number two to the service provider agreement with SCJ Engineering, again for general on-call engineering services. For this one, we had an original agreement. For some reason, I'm sorry, hold on. We had an original agreement of not to exceed for $25,000. Then we did amendment number one last year, which increased the not to exceed amount to $50,000. For amendment number two, we're going to increase the amount again for 2025 to $130,000 total to address any on-call services that we need through 2025, and then extending the agreement until December the 31st, 2025. So both of them are pretty standard upgrades to the current on-calls that we have in place today. And then I think for these two, it's the same as how we did it last time. There should be two staff reports, one for HDR and one for SCJ. And I think we can just read off the two and just go through one after the other unless anybody has any questions.
Do you have any questions, Angela? Okay,
no, and this increase is just because of inflation, right, Bill? Costs are going up everywhere, and that's the cost of doing business today. Is that correct?
Yeah, in this case, it's a little bit different. We're asking, we've already expended some of the original agreement. So this is basically an increase to for an anticipated amount that we expect we might use in 2025. Again, if these are on-call agreements, so if we don't need it, we don't utilize it. If we do need it, then we run through a work order process with an estimated budget for that particular item, and then we just manage it that way. So it's kind of an estimate as to what we think we need. Sometimes we use all of it, sometimes we don't use very much of it. It just depends on what our needs are.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And again, these aren't project specific, they're just on call, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, they're just whatever we need in order to get projects completed.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Ready for the motion?
Okay, all right. So let me go ahead and read this into the minutes. So our recommended action is to place the First Amendment to the service provider agreement for on-call engineering services on the city council consent calendar on January 7th, 2024, with a recommendation for the mayor to sign.
I agree and second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. And let's move on to the other one, number 4. The recommended action is place the Second Amendment to the service provider agreement for on-call engineering services on the city council consent calendar on January 7th, 2024, with a recommendation for the mayor to sign.
I agree and approve that motion. Second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, Bill, we got those two taken care of.
Thank you,
Yeah,
council
you
members.
betcha. Now we're on to the service provider agreement with PBS Engineering for, oh man, I gotta say that word again, for the Percival Creek Fish Passage Barrier Removal Project Amendment 4. Take it away, Dan, and you now have the longest title known to mankind.
Yeah, I was hoping
Thanks
that
a
Bill was
lot.
going to beat me, but there we
We
go.
gotta get this thing going. I can't
Yeah,
say Fish
it's-
Passage for very much longer.
You know, maybe 8 more months, and I think we'll be all right.
Oh,
And then
really? Oh,
we'll
good.
be underway, and things will be rolling. And
Oh,
I'll
good.
work on the Somerset Hill fish passage barrier removal project.
I
so
can
that we can
cancel my meeting with my speech therapist. So yeah, thank you.
We'll just call that one a culvert replacement. We'll just call it good there. Yes, this is the Percival Creek Fish Passage Barrier Removal Project. This is amendment number 4 for PBS Engineering. This is what I call basically a just in case agreement with them, or just in case amendment. This is to provide the city with some support. We have the designs and all of the documents in with WashDOT right now. And should they have any questions or any additional needs as they review that project, PBS, who is the obviously the engineer designing, this will provide them some funds to be able to respond to those comments with any detail. In addition, this is as we go out to bid with the project. This agreement would cover their time to provide some bid support as we go through that project, and then also any questions that may come up during the construction project. So, no defined actions currently. This is just for some support to city staff as we move forward with this project in the coming year. This would add about $50,000, $49,987 dollars to the project. Complete any final updates to the plans that are needed. Provide that bid support, as I mentioned, and construction support as needed. So this would increase the total agreement to $301,075. All of this is also being funded by 2 grants the city has acquired to complete the project. So if you have any specific questions, like I said, this is kind of a quick one today. It was just in case agreement. I thought I would, I'm pretty much done. And if you have any questions, let me know.
No questions from me.
Only mine is just, you probably covered this a million times, but once we do the one down below, when we do the bridge down off of Somerset Drive. So, well, does that have to happen before we actually see salmon maybe up in the Percival part of it, this part of it? Because they have to come upstream, right? to get to that?
Yeah, the one downstream is identified as a partial barrier.
Okay.
The reason why we've been so successful in getting grant funds for this project has been on our books for approximately, I want to say since 1999, so about a year before I came on with the city. And it just never really ranked high enough. The state wasn't, didn't have a lot of programs for culvert replacements at the time. Those conditions for the state have changed. And we did some work, I want to say in 2021, where we had actually identified through what they call eDNA. So it's like basically it's a simplified DNA process where you take a sample out of the river. And if a particular species, so you pre-identify species with this monitoring process, and if the species was in the system within 7 days, then it's a presence absence detection for that species. We did eDNA at the Sap Road site and found that salmon species have been in that river, and so it really helped us also rank this project much higher. As we said, it's a full passage barrier, so we want to be able to fix this one. The one downstream is a partial barrier, so obviously some fish have been able to get past this in time, but we want to be able to fix that too, and again continue to the efforts to open up the former Trosper Lake headwaters back up to fish. It's one of the only natural spawning creeks or waterways that we have in the city of Tumwater. So really looking forward to opening back up that the headwaters for the salmon.
That's really cool. I've been reading or hearing about other projects across the state where people are, the salmon are coming back, and it's just in areas that they hadn't seen. And so it's very exciting. So
Yeah,
I know we've been living
well,
this project for a while, and we finally prove it, but it's awesome.
Now with our team at SPSCC, we're actually trying to keep an eye out. Our folks are walking around every day, just taking a look down the creek to see if we see anything down there, since it's right outside our door, so to speak.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, with that, Councilmember Jefferson, if you have any questions, we'll go ahead and.
No, I just have a comment because we discussed the budget on Tuesday, and we wanted to invest in personnel and morale. This way we can be competitive with the other jurisdictions. And what Dan just spoke about is just so important on what we're trying to do. It's just his longevity, his experience, and just keeping that talent in our city is just important because Dan's been here from the forefront. Who knew about all this information? So just thank you, Dan, and just
your team. Yeah.
Guys, thank you to you and your team. That we appreciate you, and we chose to invest in you and your talents this budget. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
We do appreciate our public works and our water guys. Yay.
Yes.
All right. So with that, we have a recommended action before us is to place the service provider agreement with PBS Engineering and Environment for the Percival Creek Fish Passage Barrier Removal Project Amendment 4 on the January 7th, 2024 Council Consent Calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, Dan, thank you for that one.
Yes, thank you.
And let's see, we have somebody new coming up. Colby.
How's it going?
All right, now we're on to the acceptance of work with the Retrucking and Excavating Incorporated. Take it away, Colby.
1 second, pull it up on my screen. Okay, everybody able to see that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, yeah, so as you alluded to, this is my acceptance of work presentation for final acceptance on the Israel Road and Lenderson Way water main project. I'm Colby Fletcher, construction engineer for the city. This project was, let's see. So project overview, this project, it fits the City of Tumwater's visions, missions, and beliefs. It also strengthens our commitment to strategic priority and goals, being a leader in environmental sustainability and ensuring ample water supply. The project, the the scope of the project was to replace the existing 8-inch asbestos cement water main with a new 12-inch ductile iron main. It also included some PSE Schedule 74 undergrounding, so all the overhead power converted to underground and all the private utilities that accompany that. And also included some ADA sidewalk and driveway upgrades where they were applicable for where we had trenching and stuff with the water main. So just for context, here's kind of the vicinity map showing kind of the locations of the water main extents and also the underground joint utility trenching that occurred on Israel Road. So this project and what we accomplished, overall, there was almost 5,100 feet of brand new ductile iron water main for all water transmission. That included 22 connections to existing water lanes on, services, laterals for private services. There included 57 new gate valves, 6 new hydrant assemblies, and 14 water service connections. And as I alluded to, the joint utility trenching also occurred, and that was about 3,150 feet total. That included PSE Electric and Lumen, Comcast, and Astound. So all those utilities are now underground. And it also included 330 square yards of new sidewalk and driveway and curb ramps that we had to demo out in order to get some of these new water services and stuff in. So let's see here. I guess as far as the joint utility trenching is concerned, it's been a little bit of a lengthy process in trying to get PSE and all the private utilities undergrounded. So they are actually all complete, and we're just waiting for PSE to come out and remove the poles now. So I guess I'd like to showcase a couple photos, showcase some of the challenges and stuff that we had as well. So trench excavation and water main installation. So here's the brand new water main. As you can see in the photo on the left, we often had to navigate existing utilities. There are also some challenges, where those were known utilities, and we also encountered utilities that were never located or we didn't have records of. So there was a lot of challenges in navigating some of that. The photo on the right is kind of a typical valve assembly. So here's some trench restoration photos. So you got the shoring in there for the workers to install all the ductile main in the trench, and kind of going through and backfilling it on the left there, and then going through with the HOPAC and using some density testing from MTC, one of our on-call consultants, to come out and provide confirmation that our trench was compacted correctly and accurately. And then this is the last slide for photos as far as showcasing the joint utility trenching that occurred. So on the left, you can kind of see the larger conduits and the separation between them. So on the left side of that trench in that photo, that's all the PSE transmission conduit. There's some pretty large ones for their electrical mains and all that. And then on the right side is all the private utility conduit, which included a spare for the city as well, in case we ever wanted to do something in the future. And on the right photo, we have our PSE pole vaults and a transformer vault that were installed kind of right there in front of the high school. So the financial summary, project timeline. So we broke ground on this project on July 31st of 2023. Substantial completion occurred on April 12th, 2024, and physical completion occurred May 9th, 2024. Overall funding for this project was the Water Fund CFP, and the lowest bid obviously was Reed Trucking and Excavating at $3,365,536.16, and the final contract amount was $3,866,098.95. So we do realize this was over the original bid amount, approximately 15%. This was due to change of field conditions, encountering a lot of unknown existing water services, unlocated utility obstructions. There were some changes to the joint utility trenching that PSE wanted to incorporate. As such, I believe it was December of 2023, Bill had asked for authorization to exceed the 10% for Brandon through council, and we were granted that. So we were authorized up to 20%, but I just wanted to confirm that we didn't get past 20%. We had the overestimation, and 15% is kind of where we landed. So with that, that kind of concludes the presentation I have. So the recommended action is there, and I guess I'll be available to answer any questions.
All right. Okay, Councilmember Jefferson, do you have any questions?
Colby, I appreciate the photos and I love the photos because it shows our humble, and I call you humble, employees hard at work, just the quiet professionals behind the scenes, just working hard. So thank you. Keep those photos coming.
Will do.
Yeah, echo that. People realize how, we just take it for granted when you, turn your water on. So I
Mhm.
appreciate your work and making sure that we have access to safe water. So, all right, with that, I'll go ahead. If you have any other questions, I'll go ahead and read the recommended action. Recommended action is staff requests the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council accept the Israel Road and Linderson Way water main project as complete and authorize the release of the performance bond as soon as the laws of the state of Washington allow.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, another one down. Thank you, Colby. I keep waiting. We're gonna have a grand opening someday. I keep thinking that it's probably gonna be in the rain though, to celebrate the opening of that road officially. All right, so it looks like we're gonna be moving on to the next item is the acceptance of work with Specialized Pavement Marking LLC for the 2024 citywide striping project. And Colby, you're back up again.
Just like last time, so this will be the last one for me. So, 2024 citywide striping acceptance of work presentation. Just want to go through 1 second. So this project is our yearly striping maintenance project, providing delineation for traffic management, improve safety for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians. We typically use paint to update our longitudinal lines. It's cheaper, more cost effective. It doesn't last as long as plastic pavement markings, but that's kind of why we go through and do this annually, just to increase visibility of our roadways. Project overview. So this is kind of a vicinity map there as well to kind of show the magnitude and scope of this project. We obviously the scope was to repaint existing pavement markings, and then we also restriped Deschutes parkways parking stalls, and also changed the skip stripe from a solid to a double center stripe. This project, kind of the way the operations of this work was primarily done on weekend work. It's coordinated so that kind of, outside the busier traffic hours. And this is kind of a mobile operation, obviously, where we had signs following behind with chaser vehicles behind the striping company. And when they were striping that, and ensuring drivers didn't change lanes with signings due to the wet paint. So yeah, you can definitely see the extent of that over there as far as all the roadway networks and stuff for what got restriped. So what we accomplished, we restriped all the longitudinal pavement markings. That included just one application over existing. We retouched up the centerline stripe, fog line stripes, bicycle lane stripes, and then also the parking stalls as Deschutes Parkway. Overall, we had 515,000 linear feet of 4-inch paint line, which is just over 97.5 miles for perspective of that, and then 169,000 linear feet of 8-inch paint line, which was just over 32 miles. So as this project was just painting, just want to ensure that plastic pavement markings and raised pavement markers are planned to be tackled in the 2025 pavement maintenance project. So we're actively designing that project currently in-house and get that going next year. So financial summary on this one, estimated construction cost range was approximately 130 to 150,000. Our low bid with a SPM specialized payment markings at 136,933.50 cents, and our final project cost was 129,436.76. So a little under budget. That was due to kind of a couple of roads that didn't get that were originally scheduled getting done. So yeah, and then this one was funded by the City of Tumwater Streets operating budget. So I guess with that, recommended action, similar to the last one. So I guess able to field any questions if there are any of those.
Councilmember Jefferson.
No questions.
So this comes out of the, let's see, doesn't come out of the TBD fund then? It comes out of a separate fund. It's different.
Yeah, it was the City of
Okay.
Tumwater Streets operating budget for this one.
Okay. That'll be coming up next. Okay. All right. So appreciate that. I live on R.W. Johnson, and we were striping that one. I didn't realize we were striping, and I hear this weird noise, and it's like, oh, we got stripes. So thank you. You're very stealth-like out there. All right, so the recommended action before us is, let's see, let me go back and put that back up. Staff requests that the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council accept the 2024 citywide striping project as complete and authorize the release of the performance bond as soon as the laws of the state of Washington allow.
And I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, Colby, for another year of great work.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, so now we're going to move on to our last topic. And it has to do with the Transportation Benefit District. And we'll be hearing from Brandon. No?
I'm actually going to jump in
Clint
real quick in
and-
front of Clint.
Okay.
So Clint Ritter is going to be doing the presentation today, and I just wanted to introduce him. He's our
Yes.
new Assistant Director for the Transportation and Engineering Department, since Mary
welcome.
Heather moved on to the city of Pasco. He's got a boatload of experience working for Pierce County, WashDOT, Transportation Improvement Board. So definitely happy to have him aboard, and looking forward to a lot of the work he's going to do, especially on the TBD. So I'll give it to Clint.
Thank you, Brandon.
Awesome.
Welcome, Clint.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, council members. Thanks for the intro, Brandon. Yeah, excited to be here at the City of Tumwater. As Brandon mentioned, I was Transportation Programming Manager at Pierce County for about 10 years. I grew up in Tumwater, so a lot of the streets are familiar. So excited to get to do some work here locally. So with
Not
that,
to interrupt you, Chad, but you are a Ritter. Is that like Ritter connection as far as some businesses here in town, Ritter?
No, it's
Okay.
not. My parents actually still live on Z Street. So
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah. So with that, I am here to basically give an informational presentation on the Transportation Benefit District in anticipation of some council action in 2025 to renew that program. So I have a short presentation. I can share my screen here. All right, can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
All right, so agenda today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the TBD, some accomplishments over the last 10 years, some facts about TBDs in general, both from a state legislative perspective as well as the Tumwater Municipal Code, and then some future scheduling to be aware of, as mentioned, in anticipation of a 2025 renewal. So starting with history, the TBD in the City of Tumwater was originally established in 2014 by council. And then shortly thereafter in 2015, went for a vote of the people, and they approved a 0.2% sales tax. And that was implemented. To date, over that 10-year period, actually, this is through 2023, so this revenue does not include 2024 year to date. We'll have that soon, but it has generated a tremendous amount of funding for streets. Many of the projects that we've seen, and I'll talk a little bit about a few of those, but about $16.6 million in revenue. It's important to note as well that that funding has been used to leverage and secure an additional $6 million in state and federal grant funding. So all in all, a huge funding source for streets in Tumwater. This graph here may look familiar to some of you. There's a lot of variations of it, but it really does a good job at conveying the importance of pavement preservation and ensuring that we take care of the condition of our streets. Pavement maintenance and preservation is cost effective in the long term. And if we can keep our streets in an acceptable condition or above using pavement preservation, such as overlays, chip seals, crack sealing, that really reduces our cost in the long term and prevents our streets from getting into that poor, unacceptable condition where that would require more extensive treatment, such as reconstruction. It's a lot more costly to do that. And so this funding really the focus of this funding really has been on pavement preservation, and we've seen some really good outcomes because of that. Just to highlight a few of the accomplishments, over the last 10 years, we've improved 100 lane miles of streets by putting down 50,000 approximately tons of asphalt, reconstructed or installed 114 curb ramps, over 38,000 pavement markings. That's past projects, and then current projects and upcoming projects next year using TBD funding include the Israel Road, Lenderson Way bike ped improvements, currently close to being done, the Linwood Avenue sidewalk project, 2nd Avenue ped bike improvements, as well as our pavement maintenance project for next year. We have a very useful GIS database of our pavement preservation efforts that tracks the pavement condition index of all streets in the city of Tumwater. And this really gives a comparison from the overall rating of streets in 2014 versus 2023, which is the latest data that we currently have. And basically it shows that in 2014, 30.3% of road miles were in a very good condition, whereas that's where we like to see streets at that or above. And in 2023, that improved to almost 60% of road miles. And much of that was due to the TBD funding that we were able to utilize for many of these projects. Just a kind of couple pictures to show some of the projects that were done. You can see the improvements there to Mottman Road, Tumwater Boulevard, the roundabout at the intersection of Barnes Boulevard and Crosby Boulevard, all funded by TBD funds. Now moving on to a few facts about TBDs. So they're governed in state law, RCW 3673. Some highlights, kind of there's obviously a lot to that, but I just wanted to point out a couple highlights of that RCW. So the tax may not be imposed for more than 10 years. And any renewal of that tax for up to 10 years requires a new vote. So that's essentially why we're here talking about that now, given that that tax was first implemented in 2015. It is set to expire in 2025, so we would need to renew that with a vote. There's two primary funding mechanisms of a TBD that are allowed by state law. The first of which is the sales tax option. So the rate cannot exceed 0.3%, and anything above 0.1% requires a vote of the people. Currently, as mentioned before, the sales tax for the TBD in the city is 0.2%. The other option is the vehicle fee option. There's a lot of nuances and restrictions to that, but it can basically start with a $20 car tab, and that can be increased with time and obviously further legislative action to $40 and $50. One key difference that I wanted to make sure to point out is that, and this is the kind of the reason why Tumwater went with the sales tax option originally, is that it really spreads the burden to not only the residents of the city, but everyone who shops and does business within the city. And
Clint,
those
I have a
folks are
question.
also-
So when does this expire, or when is it, when are we asking the public to renew it? Is it this year?
No, it will be 2025.
Okay.
Yep, and I have the I think on a couple slides I have the actual election date that that we'll need to be tracking.
All right, thank
Yeah. So those are the primary two options. As a result of establishing the TBD and the sales tax in the city, it is also further governed by Tumwater Municipal Code Chapter 1242. The governing body is the city council, and 1242-040 just describes basically the use of funds, and it's pretty flexible in terms of the infrastructure related to streets. A few other facts, just looking at more kind of a regional or statewide perspective. This is a commonly used funding mechanism. There's 116 cities in Washington currently that have formed a TBD. The majority of those have been funded, and they have been funded utilizing the sales tax option. There's 5 counties in Washington that have formed TBDs. Only one of those has actually been funded. The remaining 4 just are a district established and for whatever reason have not been funded. Since 2011, there have been 33 ballot measures for cities specifically using the sales tax option. 30 of those have passed, and the 3 that did not pass by a very slim margin. So it has been just overall statewide, it's been a very successful revenue option for local agencies. And then future schedule and considerations. So we are planning on a council work session as well as a council meeting in January of next year to talk specifically about the required pieces of legislation, including a resolution and other things in anticipation of the election, which is on April 22nd of next year. The deadline for council to submit the resolution to elections to start the process of getting a new TBD renewal measure on the ballot would be February 21st. One thing I wanted to point out, just to be thinking about, and something that I think we'll be asking for direction on in January at the latest, will be whether the council would like to solicit and form supporting and opposition committees for that ballot measure. That was something that was done in 2015 as part of the original measure. So that'll be a decision that will need to be made. And then there's ongoing coordination between transportation and the communications teams, just to get historical facts. We're preparing a lot of data in terms of not only what has been accomplished, but what a future 10-year program would look like in terms of the pavement preservation and other needs such as sidewalks and things like that.
Yes.
So that work is underway. Trying to get an early jump on things.
Clint,
Yeah.
that is critical. I just wrote down Well, to me, it sounds like this is for routine road maintenance for safety. I would call it preventive checks and services. And where is the funding going? Because we like to see charts and, like you just mentioned, show me how we are spending this money. What are we going to accomplish with this, for the next 10 years? So you just hit it on point for me. So that's what I want to see, more charts and the why. Why should we invest in this? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we have, to your point, council member, we have really good, strong data that I've seen just in my first few weeks here about what the TBD has really accomplished in terms of pavement condition. We do have a list of projects. So to your point, in January, we'll definitely be bringing, here's a list of projects, all of the projects and total costs that we've done utilizing the TBD.
Yeah.
As well as, some pavement condition data, a little more detail on that, and as well as kind of a high level overview of the types of projects that we could expect should this TBD be renewed over the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's what we want to see.
Excellent. So that concludes my presentation for today. Happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Well, thank you for that. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years. When I first started as a council member, that was my first assignment, is that we were going to all the HOAs and doing presentations with the public works director. I remember going with him one time, but just sharing this information individually with the community, because it was such a new thing and it passed well. My only concern is, and I think Brandon already confirmed, that we don't need a super majority to pass this. It's kind of tough going up against a presidential election as far as percentage goes. And then I just think about everything that went into play the last time as far as forming committees and like you said, the pros and cons statement and all of that, as council members, we were out there. And so I just wanted, wondering what that's going to look like this time. And, as far as doing a campaign like this. So, and then wondering again, like, what are we up against in April? So as far as other measures on the ballot, are we going to be the only one? So I'm sorry, I'm just getting into the weeds here as far as how this is all going to work. So, but
that's important, because that's government a la carte, letting the public know what you're paying for, why we need this. So it's almost like convincing them and letting them know, hey, this is the great work that we are doing. So, that's the important thing, to just, let them know.
Still feeling touchy after the RFA, so I just want to be sure that we're all aligned,
right?
And we don't have any problems with this one. So as far as, because we've gotten a lot of work done, and I think it was more successful than we ever anticipated it to be. So I think that will
show that
will definitely promote this. Show that we kept our promises made, promises kept, as we like to say. So well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then Chad or Clint, I think we're going to be on doing TRPC information. Are you on the committee now for TRPC as far as you will be assigned? Okay, because I used to meet with Mary Heather every once in a while just on the issues for TRPC. So I look forward to that, working with you on that. So
thank you, Clint, and welcome aboard.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, team, we've reached the end of our agenda. And so I did receive an email from Dan asking about, we don't have anything for the December 19th meeting. So it looks like we may be canceling the Public Works meeting for Thursday, December 19th, but we'll coming out with information on that to follow. So it's been an amazing year. I would love to see all the work that you guys got accomplished. So list everything. It's just, you've done a lot this year. So it's amazing. So thank you for keeping us safe and keeping the water on going and everything. So all right. So with that, if we don't have any other additional items for to address, then I will call the Thursday, December 5th, 2024 Tumwater Public Works Committee adjourned. Have a good day.